The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
10-year-old Rebecca Baptiste died a death no child should ever know. Alone, abused, and broken. Found on a remote Arizona highway, her body bore the horrifying signs of torture, bruises, starvation, and unimaginable cruelty. Her toenails had been torn off, her eyes blackened, her tiny frame ravaged. Despite desperate calls from her school, no help came in time. Now, her father and his girlfriend face murder charges, and tonight we have the 911 call made to police by the father's girlfriend. But first,
did you kill your wife, Mindi Cassotis?
I absolutely did not. I've never put my hands on a woman. I've never hurt a woman. I would never have hurt Mindi.
Nick Kassotis was a Navy JAG, a trained prosecutor. After divorcing his first wife, he was hit with a $1.5 million divorce judgment. Then Nick and his wife Mindi went on the run. But what were they running from? Was it the seven-figure judgment, or was someone out to do them harm? Mindi ended up murdered and dismembered. Prosecutors say it was Nick who did it, but the defense is pointing the finger somewhere else. Where is the truth in this case? Where are the lies? Tonight, we take a look at the dramatic testimony as the defendant himself, Nick Kassotis, takes the stand in his own defense. Will the jury believe him? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And when witnesses are sworn in, you know, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. You sit down, do interviews with police. You're supposed to tell the truth if it's an investigation. Otherwise, you can be charged for those lies. You obviously have the right to remain silent. But if you do choose to speak, you need to tell the truth, or you are supposed to tell the truth. But through the years here at Court TV, obviously, we've come across some people who don't tell the truth. For instance, that woman, there she is on the phone talking to her parents. She was a good liar. She was a really good liar. And the reason Kaylee Anthony's mother, should I even call her a mother, was a good liar is because she was so quick. And I think it's because she was doing it so much, but she was very quick. Whatever the situation was, she could change on a dime. Someone confronts her with a fact, boom, she's got a response. No time to reflect. The lies would just flow out of her mouth, which made her good at it. And ultimately, she kind of got away with something, some believe. Now, Jodi Arias, on the other hand, she was a bad liar. And the reason she was a bad liar is she needed time, right? She needed time to reflect and think about it, to concoct a bad lie. And she got caught in all her lies. She got convicted, but she wasn't quick. So when she was speaking with police and when she was on the witness stand and when she was being cross-examined, she could not pivot quick enough and kind of pick it up. She would get caught and get caught up in her lies, specifically in that case, the gas cans. And I know there were gas cans in that first case, but Jodi Arias got caught up with the gas can lie in the second case. Now, Alec Murdaugh, he was a really bad liar. And I think he thought he was a good liar because he had gotten away with these lies for so many years. But it really wasn't so much the lying, it was the power and influence and the fear that people had of him and his family. So as a result, no one's going to call him out, right? No one's going to call him out on his lies. It's not going to happen until it did. And then when you saw him trying to tell his story and up on the witness stand, he was oozing that confidence, and it didn't work. It all fell flat. It didn't make sense. No one believed his apologies, his remorse, or his denials, and the jury convicted him. Now let's talk about Nicholas Kassotis. It's the case you're watching here on Court TV. This guy is an absurd liar, okay? His stories don't line up with like reality or provable facts, and he has no evidence to back up his stories and his versions of everything that happened. And he took the stand today in his own defense. Now, I know anything can happen. Juries have taught us that through the years, so nothing's over till it's over. I'm just giving you my thoughts, my impressions. I'll let you take a look at him for yourself. Here he is, Nicholas Kassotis, on the stand, telling his story.
In 2017, we were discussing my upcoming departure from active duty. We were discussing, starting a family, several things, and Mindi was very actively watching all of our spending because she wanted to make sure that we were in the best position financially, and she started noticing odd deductions from our accounts that had that weren't tied to anything that we were doing. Sometimes they seemed to be, the ones she showed me were, they didn't even have transaction numbers. It would just say something like payment, and hundreds of dollars would go missing.
Any other weirdness begin to happen later?
Yes, sometime in late 2017, we'd seen kind of a brief reprieve where we thought that things had, our bank had fixed the issues, that things were no longer going wrong, and suddenly it kind of restarted with a lot more than it had before, and we also started seeing vandalism at our house. I would sometimes get anonymous emails stating, that I was going to be hurt or killed. Our mail would go missing, things of that nature.
Did you ever report that to any law enforcement?
I did.
Who did you report that to?
I reported that to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Several days later, I got a call at work. This was when I was working as a civilian at the Board for Correction and Naval Records, and Mindi said that an FBI agent had come to the house.
What was the name given by the FBI agent?
Jim McIntyre.
What happened next with respect to Jim McIntyre?
He came back a couple days later.
Did you meet with him at that time?
I did.
Tell us about that.
He came to the house. I believe he had called to schedule it to make sure that I was going to be home at the time. He seemed very thorough, very professional. He wanted to know everything that had happened. He wanted copies of the emails that we had received. He wanted specific issues with the banks. I believe we printed out screenshots of the charges that showed what had been going on, and we provided all that to him. And he said that it was something he took seriously, and that he would be investigating it. Over the coming weeks or months, he advised us that he believed that this Washington Post article had got me some attention that I was from a overseas hacking group of some sort that was targeting members of the military. He said that we should relax somewhat because he believed that the local vandalism and things of that nature were likely something they were paying kids to do or something of that nature. We were not in real danger. It was meant to be harassing us, and that he was continuing to investigate it.
And that's about the same time that Heather is coming, finally bringing it to a head to collect this divorce obligations that you've failed to perform?
Yes.
So when you agreed to pay her $1.5 million, what made you think that you had $1.5 million?
Mr. Jim McIntyre told me I did. If I could back up just a little.
Please.
Because that year, the year 2018 into early 2019, a lot had happened. In May, we were told to leave our house. He said that there were arrests being made, and that there was nobody. It was a holiday weekend, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend, and that he was worried we would not be safe if we stayed there, that somebody might do something rash, and we were terrified.
Why would Jim McIntyre know how much money you had?
Because there was a large sale or licensing agreement that was completed at some point. I wasn't getting paid by this company. I was paid only in stock options, and I was told that this large sum of money was being given to me. I believe this was late 2018. Honestly, it felt kind of like a lottery ticket. It was something that I had never expected, and But we had real issues with getting a large chunk of money because we couldn't put a couple $100s into our account without it going missing within a matter of minutes, if not hours.
Why would you believe Jim McIntyre, this FBI agent, is paying for the rental of your homes?
I assumed that he was paying for it out of our own money, but because he had access to this trust, I didn't think this was coming out of FBI funds or anything.
Why did he have access to your money?
Because he was keeping it safe for us, was our understanding.
Did you ever hear from Mindi while you were away from home Thanksgiving weekend?
Yes, I did.
What did you hear?
I got a message from her that she was leaving the home, that she was concerned, and she was going to get medical attention.
Did you rush home to assist her in getting medical attention?
I did not. I asked her if she thought I should come back, and she said that she didn't need, that she was going to be picked up and that she was all right.
Did she tell you where she was going to get medical attention?
We had discussed it in prior days that she was going to be taken to a birthing center that a doctor that, or the man I believe to be a doctor who had been seeing her in the home, worked at or was affiliated with in some way. Mr. McIntyre was comfortable with that because we were very scared again about the medical issues, with insurance, with payments, with our location being found.
So you're still in communication with the person you call Jim McIntyre?
Oh, absolutely.
When did you next see Mindi?
I never saw Mindi again.
Why not?
I got messages Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that I thought were from her. Everything seemed positive. And Thursday said I received a phone call and was told she'll be ready to pick up this afternoon. I'd sent her a few messages that hadn't heard back. I assumed she was either napping or undergoing some sort of test that she didn't have her phone with her. But that evening, Thursday, December 1st, I was told that she had died.
Who told you that she had died?
A man at a medical clinic of some sort that I went to.
Okay. All right. Now, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if his nose increased in any size during the course of his testimony. So we need an expert. Joining us to weigh in is body language expert and host of the podcast In the Driver's Seat with Janine Driver. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Janine Driver. All right, Janine, I want to give you, what's your overall assessment of Nicholas Kassotis on the witness stand?
I'm still on sentence like 1 or 2. To me, it's like a Dr. Seuss story. It's really challenging to follow, and some of these interesting beliefs that he has. I wrote down a couple words. He said absolutely is overcompensating. And we've talked about this before, Vinnie, and you at home, where truthful people say yes or no. So when someone, instead of saying a yes, do you like your show, doing the show? Absolutely. It's overcompensating. This is someone trying to convince us. I say convince, not convey. And then never. Earlier in the segment, it was like, hey, never did I do that. Never did I do something like this. Never is also overcompensating. And he said, to be honest, or honestly, it felt like getting a lottery ticket. Here's the issue. When you're on the stand, we are assuming that everything you're saying is supposed to be honest. You take a thing called an oath. It's unnecessary at any point to add the word honestly. When you do that, it typically means one of two things. Either, Vinnie, they lied up until that point, and that part happens to be true, so they hit it home. Honestly, this part's real. Or the opposite, everything else has been truthful, and then that one point, they're overcompensating. And so we don't know the case. Which one it is, but I will say suspicious. Also his blink rate, which also when we see the police tapes, when he's first interviewed by police, he has this increase in blink rate, this manic looking left to right, and the blink rate is a big deal because we think, so the average blink rate is 15 to 20 times a minute. The average person, we spend 10% of our life, our waking life, with our eyes closed. And when we blink our eyes, it's to clean the eye, And it also is a cognitive reset. I like to say it's a comma in someone's thought process. And here we have lots of extra blinks, not only extra, but sometimes, Vinny, and you at home, there's a longer blink. I like to say that's the password or the screensaver on your phone. Yes, so when that password comes on your phone, right, or that screensaver, and you have to put your code in, that's why. So your significant other or your kids or whoever the new person is you're dating can't have access to your private information. Those longer eye closes that we see here with, is it Cassotis? How do I say his last name?
Kassotis.
Kassotis, yeah, with Kassotis, these couple longer blinks when he's listening is also suspicious. This is incredibly suspicious for me. I would need to slow this down, and there is a lot happening here.
And how about I mean, he seems so confident in his delivery, like this story, yet there's these vague references and there's nothing specific, right? Oh, yeah, my wife died and some medical guy somewhere told me about it. That to me, that's bizarre. Like, is that okay? Do people not have those sort of recollections of big moments like that?
Well, we all remember things in a slightly different way. One of my mentors, a special agent in charge of ATF, now retired, Teresa Stoop, she was there with the Atlanta bombing of the abortion clinics. And she was interviewed and asked, you know, what color was the smoke? That's important. I'm retired ATF. The smoke color indicates what was in the bomb. And she said there was no smoke. And then later that night, she's home with her husband, who's a local cop, and she sees herself come out of a billow of smoke. So sometimes we focus on some of the big parts. But here, because he wasn't there when she died, the fact that he's not remembering some of these details is incredibly odd.
Incredibly. And what are your thoughts about his overall appearance? He seems to be comfortable in that seat. He is a JAG, so he's been in the courtroom before.
Yes, and listen to this, Vinny. You brought up at the beginning of this segment here, you talked about Casey Anthony and her confidence. When people have a position of power, whether you were a high-ranking official in the military or you were Casey Anthony, you were fit and pretty and good-looking and you had a lot of attention. Here's what happens when powerful people lie. There's a decrease in cortisol, that stress hormone, and there's an increase in positive emotions. So they're almost too positive. You know, oh yeah, I found out that you died at some hospital, at some clinic, some doctor called me. So there's an increase in positive emotion. It's like, you know, you're in trouble and your boss calls you in and you're like, yeah, boss, what's going on? You know, you are 40 minutes late for work. You know what's going on, but you come in with a smile on your face. And here's what you said earlier about Casey Anthony. We're seeing it here. When you have an ego, a position of power in your life, when you lie, you have an increase in cognition, which means when one lie doesn't work, you can come up with another one incredibly quickly. And I think that's what we could potentially be seeing here.
Janine Driver, always great to have your expertise. Thank you so much. All right, folks, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joining us on the phone from Hinesville, Georgia. We got some weather down there. Let me ask you, Kelly, how was the jury reacting to the defendant on the witness stand today?
Well, hey there, Vinny. Yes, we had to come to you via phoner because it started lightning and thundering rain out here pretty hard. So today it was really interesting to watch the defendant on the stand and watch those closing arguments. And I will say, when he was testifying, there was some note-taking going on. There was some note-taking going on by some of the jurors. And when he would talk, some of the jurors did not even look at him. Other times, at certain times, some jurors would look at him, and then he would continue staring back at them, and then they would turn their gaze away. During the closing arguments, and I know we're going to play a little snippet from defense counsel. So defense counsel went first. There was one part where he was talking about Jim McIntyre. We've heard about this mystery man, Jim McIntyre. And so defense counsel was saying, why do this? Why did he, the defendant, be on the run for years, him and Mindi, telling everyone they were living in fear of their lives, that they were being hunted? Why would he do this? There's no life insurance policy on Mindi, so he's saying my client did not do this to get any kind of money. What really was the motive, even though the prosecution doesn't have to prove motive? But he kind of gave some of the jurors, at least one I noticed, something to think about, because I noticed one particular juror kind of nodding their head in agreement with what defense counsel is saying right here. We can go ahead and play that.
As you heard the state point out, He's a former prosecutor. He's a former defense attorney. He's speaking to law enforcement. Why is he doing that? Because as totally insane as the Jim McIntyre story is, he has nothing to hide. He lived that Jim McIntyre story. Both Mindi and Nick told people the same story about security details. I don't know whether Mindi necessarily said Jim McIntyre, but they discussed it. They lived it.
So him saying they lived it, I noticed one juror in particular just kind of nodding their head in agreement. And then when we talk about the prosecution's closing argument, she gave a very long close. And then at one particular point, she got really loud. And I noticed some of the jurors ended up kind of jumping. They were startled. Why don't we go ahead and play that part of her close?
Then there's the abdominal wounds. This goes back to Mindi not being pregnant. And you're mad! She told you she was pregnant. You're mad. That's why you bury a head. That's why you stab her in the belly. That's murder, Mr. Cassotis. Premeditated, intentional homicide. And then he cut her up. And he tossed her out like garbage.
Yeah, pretty gruesome details, Vinnie, that we've heard throughout the case. And even during closing, the prosecutor was apologizing because Mindi's family is sitting right there in the gallery. That side of the courtroom, Vinnie, was just packed.
What's next, Kelly?
Tomorrow, the judge told the jurors to be back here around 8:30. He is going to read jury instructions to them, and then they will begin their deliberation process, Vinnie.
All right, Kelly Kreff in Georgia, in the rain. Talk to you tomorrow. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We've got our think tank in studio. They're ready to go. We're going to go over some more of this testimony, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a quadruple murder, a frantic manhunt, and an abandoned baby left behind. Authorities say Austin Drummond's rampage shook a Tennessee town to its core. But why was one life spared in the middle of such horror? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Did you kill your wife, Mindi Cassotis?
I absolutely did not. I've never put my hands on a woman. I've never hurt a woman. I would never have hurt Mindi.
Did you strike her on the head up to 9 times?
Never. Never, not once.
There he is, Nick Kassotis, on the witness stand. There's a lot to his stories, or his version of events and what was going on. Take a listen to another piece here, because this was another one that, this is something that, if it happened, should be very provable. Take a listen.
At some point, did you travel down to the Liberty County area?
I believe so.
Why?
This was on Tuesday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. I believe it was Tuesday, based on the other things. And I had been told to bring the two bins that we had to a house. I assumed it was somebody who worked at this birthing center, or somebody Jim was familiar with.
What man did you meet with?
I don't know his name. I was just directed to go to him to deliver this.
To deliver what again?
To deliver 2 totes full of personal items, things we would need for a couple days, things that I've been asked to, toiletries, some clothes, shoes, some books, things of that nature.
And where did you deliver them to?
I'm not exactly sure. It was a house, I presume somewhere in the greater Liberty County area, but I'm not exactly sure.
How'd you know where to go to deliver these?
I was given an address of a church that I was told to use as a waypoint, and then I was given GPS coordinates from there.
We've heard testimony that at some point your phone was turned off. Why was that?
I was told to turn off my phone because of concerns that it could be tracked.
So how did you get to the location without use of your phone?
Mindi and I had a GPS, an older Garmin GPS that, you know, had always been kind of our backup if, you know, if you lose cell coverage or something like that, if you're somewhere, then we kept that with us actually for a long time.
Where's that GPS now?
That GPS, I believe, burned up in my car.
And yeah, and then after Mindi passed away, I started dating this woman, Morgan Fairchild. Yeah, that's the ticket. Wow. All right, let's bring in our think tank live in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former assistant state attorney in Miami-Dade, and former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Criminal defense attorney and law professor Meg Strickler, and the man behind the glasses, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Great to see everyone tonight. Well, this guy's a doozy.
He's fun.
He's terrible. He's what Brian Koberger wishes he could be, because look at how proud he is of his story. He's got it all worked out. He's going to tell everybody exactly what happened.
He's specifically vague in the way he describes a lot of this stuff.
He's specifically unspecific because he needs for that to happen, because he certainly doesn't want more than a gaping hole.
He's hilarious. The way he just turns over to the jury and says, and then blah, 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 blah. And that's all I'm hearing is blah, 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 because he just keeps going.
Yeah. Like a lot of, like if your car's lit on fire, all these things, like there should be, like just give the jury a little piece of something, but none of it exists.
No corroborating evidence.
There is zero trust in anything he says, and it's just the demeanor and the way he presents it.
Do you think Mindi believed him?
Must have.
She must have, at least initially.
Well,
yeah.
we never really got a chance to meet her, and she may, you know, unfortunately, sometimes people are attracted to really bad people, and that's just what happens because they're not the most sophisticated. Now, I don't know her, but
he's been married 3 times, so he's convinced 3 different women to marry him.
He's got a sale. Look, highly trained former prosecutor can trick you into doing all kinds of ridiculous stuff.
It's
what we train prosecutors.
We talking about Daryl?
Hey, I know his record. It's rather impressive. Yeah. So yes, if you are a highly trained prosecutor, this is the way that guy's brain works, that if he tells you a good enough explanation, you're just gonna believe it.
But, I mean, I agree he's been married twice. We know that. That is an actual fact. 3 times. I apologize. I forgot about the 3rd one because Mindi was number 2, and I forgot about the 3rd one. I apologize because I was focusing on poor Mindi and her dismembered parts. But while she's speaking, while he's speaking, I can't make sense of it. So how did anyone
ever... It's hard to follow, right?
It is very hard to follow.
Let's play some more. Maybe this will clear things up. Here's more of Nick Kassotis testifying today.
When you went to pick up your wife's ashes, you indicated that was in Alabama?
Yes, ma'am. Montgomery, Alabama.
And you gave him $5,000 cash?
Yes, ma'am.
No paperwork?
No, ma'am.
No name?
I'm sorry, no name?
He didn't give you his name?
He might have, ma'am. I'm unsure. I don't remember. It was a very brief meeting.
Receiving your wife's ashes on the side of the road in Alabama for $5,000 cash, you didn't think you needed any documents as an attorney?
No, ma'am. I was pretty angry about the entire exchange.
That was a no, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
And I just want to make sure I understand, your car burst into flames in the condition we saw it in this courtroom on your way to purchase a house.
Yes, ma'am.
You never bought the house, right?
Correct, ma'am.
Because you had a check for $860,000, I believe you said, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That you said burnt up, right?
Along with parts of me, ma'am.
If you're going to buy a house and you have a check and it burns, are you allowed to write another check?
Yes, you are. And there's a thing called wiring. He made no sense, and he says later on, well, then I learned about wiring. The guy's fully educated. Like, what is...
He's a jag. It's the first client in 5... I've never seen you be silenced like that. That's how shocking his testimony is. You were silenced because when you see it, you go, oh, come on.
Look, he was wired as opposed to wiring, and he was well wired to learn how to tell not the truth, but anything but the truth.
I think he believes what he's saying. He is.
Do you think he believes?
I do. I think he's that narcissistic whack job where he really thinks he's actually making this juror listen to them. Yeah. He's probably giving solid eye contact to each one of them and be like,
Meg nailed it with the narcissism. He really believes he's smarter and better.
Yeah. There's another piece that was probably not super important for the jury, but very important for me tonight. Take a listen.
What was the name of the short story that you licensed to Sony?
My mother-in-law is poisoning me, and then I found out why.
What's the name of the mother-in-law?
Betsy.
How'd you come up with that name?
Betsy was my mother-in-law.
Is the evil husband modeled after you?
No.
So Sony bought the rights to a short story. Daryl, is it true that you'll be playing Kassotis in the...
Yes, he's already gotten engaged.
I've gotten engaged. I have a major film contract. I'm already a member of SAG. So easy done. Easy.
Yep. I represent him. I've already read the contract. We're ready to go, right?
You got paid good money for these Reddit stories. You know, there's a future out there for all of them.
He told a judge in court that he had $32 million.
It's insane. That is insane. He is a lawyer. We swear we are an officer of the law.
He is
you
not
said
a lawyer
magical
anymore.
word. You said a magical
My
word
bad.
there. Insane.
Yeah, it's
right?
insane.
Do you think there's a level, maybe not of insanity, but of mental illness going on
There's definitely
here?
mental illness here. That is 100%. But the legal right and wrong, he knows.
Will the mental illness play a role at all if he's convicted in his sentencing or in any way that he's treated by our system of justice?
If he's not convicted and sentenced to death, I think it very easily could play a method and a place as to how he is treated, where he goes to serve his time, which my view will be unless and until he's dead.
Yeah, and he would have had to bring up any kind of mental health mitigation prior to sentencing. If you're going to bring that up, it's got to be out there early if you want credit.
It's our state. We know the state prisons here.
Right.
We don't do nice things to insane people. We're not very nice to mental ill.
He ain't going to do super awesome. And the defense attorney, Mr. Want, did a fantastic job. I think the DA might have gone a little bit too much into the righteous indignation, but it was a good case.
It was a dismembered woman. Let's not forget that. All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we've got more information in the horrific case of this beautiful little girl, Rebecca Baptiste, who was found on the side of the road in horrific condition, dead, things that had been done to her. Now you're going to hear the 911 call, which came from one of her alleged killers. That's next.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Over a long period of time, this child was subjected to some horrendous conditions.
In court, Apache County prosecutors describing the injuries of 10-year-old Rebecca Baptiste.
I have marked, if for the court's consideration, exhibits 2, 3, and 4, which are excerpts from some of the hospital records regarding Rebecca, the victim who died, indicating both acute, so some very recent significant injuries that she sustained, subdural hematomas, bruising up and down her entire body, missing toenails, and then also long-term care issues.
While we still don't know her cause of death, a newly obtained police report says on July 27th, it was Rebecca's dad, Richard Baptiste, and his girlfriend, Anicia Woods, who called 911, saying Rebecca was not breathing, telling police she had run away and had been found by a neighbor. But both Richard and Woods were arrested. The little girl was taken to Phoenix Children's, where she died 3 days later.
An actual medical diagnosis said that the above findings are highly concerning for child physical abuse, child sexual abuse, and torture.
This is a brutal case, absolutely brutal, but it was, as you heard, the father, the girlfriend who called 911. We have one of those calls to play for you right now.
911, what's the location of your emergency? Hey, Rose. What's the location of your emergency? We're on I-80 headed towards Holbrook. I have you on the 180 about milepost 313. Yeah. Okay, is your emergency on the highway? It's my daughter. She's with us. We live out in the desert, and we're hauling ass to Holbrook to the EMS station. You're trying to get her to the EMS? Yes. Okay, how old is your daughter? 10. She's 10? know. What's going on with her? She ran away for the third time in a week in the desert, and when the neighbor found her in the wash, she was unresponsive completely. And by the time she got back to the house, she was barely breathing, so I'm breathing for her now. She's unresponsive, unconscious, and unable to breathe for herself. Okay, so she's still unconscious, unresponsive? Yes. Is she breathing? I'm breathing for her. What do you mean? I am putting my mouth around hers and breathing in her breath? Yes. What kind of vehicle are you driving, ma'am? This is a Ford Focus. Gray, two-door. Okay. Have you administered any CPR or just the rescue breaths? Just rescue breaths. Okay, 1 second for me while I get EMS paged out to you. I need you to pull over so that I can page him out to you and we can start CPR. Would it be easier if is it going to be faster if we just keep going? Because we're almost to Holbrook. I understand that. I need you to pull over so I can have EMS meet you.
I wonder if she was running away. I don't doubt it. I mean, if she's being tortured, she's probably going to try to get out of there. She's old enough to realize this, you know, if I stay here, more is going to happen to me. Let's bring back in our think tank, Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. Do you think she was running away?
Vinnie, when it comes to children being beaten, abused, tortured, I lose all of my equilibrium. I would bet everything I have she was running as far and as fast as she possibly could. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way we wish it had.
And what do you think of the 911 call? How does that play during a trial?
So sad. I mean, as a defense attorney, I don't know what I could say that would make it anything than what you just heard, which is cold, sterile, and no emotion. No, you couldn't even argue that was shock. That was just awful.
Yeah. Very clinical.
You're not recovering from that, because also remember, it's a 911 call that didn't even need to be made. They've got the patient on the way to the hospital. If you were trying to create legitimacy by making a call or creating some evidence, that's kind of what you do. And the coldness, anybody that's had a kid, if you see your kid sick, injured, incapacitated, I'm going to cry now thinking about it. I've held my baby before surgery, and it freaks you out. This is a child who was found in the desert not breathing. It doesn't matter, the 911 call. It doesn't matter if she was running away.
No, but I think that's, to me, I would use that against the parents. Of course she was running away.
She was running away to try to save herself.
Right.
But the clinical sound of mother's tone during her conversation was as if she was reading a script, and that doesn't fly.
No juror is going to listen to that
No.
and believe that it's like, I'm sorry, just no one's going
How
to.
do you expect this case to go now? Because it's the father and the girlfriend who've been arrested. Do you think there's going to be some deal? Do you think there's someone's going to be cooperating?
There's no deal. Do we know if the child was conscious in the 3 days? Because, bluntly, if there's any evidence of that child expressing who did this to her, it's full bore, metal. You don't want to hear me encourage prosecutors, but good luck.
Now, this is another case where calls were made. There were suspicions, and it came from the school, calling a dozen times.
Dozen?
That is sickening to me. We have these systems. Here in Georgia, we call it DFACS. There are places and agencies and things for people to have help. And the school did
And when you say people, you mean children.
Yes, the school did their job.
Imagine the survivor's guilt of those teachers. You did what you could do. You called the people you have to call, and they did nothing, making you part of the death of a child.
When will we wake up? When will we realize better to respond to something that really isn't than to fail to respond to something that really is?
Especially when it's involved with children. She was 10.
And what's being described here, the condition of her that was evident to when she got to the hospital, I would think if there was some sort of an investigation before she's dead, that some of these things would have been picked up.
Neighbors, anything.
Everything I've read about the prior outcries.
The DFACS goes in, is they're going to, 2 minutes, kind of figure out things are not the way they're supposed to be.
And immediately act. Exactly. There were injuries, like the toenails especially. That would have been visible.
The toenails, and DFAC, or their Child Protective Services, has admitted that some of the allegations actually reached the level for action, that's part of their investigation.
Emergency.
But there was no action. The state said, yeah, someone really needs to do something about that kid before something bad happens.
But a dozen calls should be enough.
Unspeakable horror
One call
that took place against that poor child, that because of the lack of action, that child is now deceased, suffered, and hopefully the parents, we can't get mad, we can get even, and we can have justice, but justice isn't enough.
Considering the efforts they put into prosecuting shoplifters and homeless people, you got somebody from a school calling about a kid getting beat.
Let's get on it.
Get on it.
Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer, thank you so much. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates 4 lives brutally taken, a community gripped by fear, and a baby found alone in the night. Investigators say Austin Drummond's crimes defy explanation. Was it mercy or something far more sinister? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Mother has been charged. This is Felicia Gross, the mother of Jaden Spicer, 10-year-old boy who she reported missing, was asking for help on where to find him. Then she goes in and tells officers that she had given Jaden sleeping medication, that he had a medical emergency and died. She says she took the body to a wooded area on Canoe Road near Joe Little Fork Road. Investigators then went out, searched that area, and found his body. She's now been arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Let's take a listen to the Kentucky State Police.
Detectives from Kentucky State Police, Post 13 Hazard, received new information related to the disappearance of 10-year-old Jaden Spicer. As a result, investigators identified a new area to search in a heavily wooded area along Canoe Road in the Jackson community of Breathitt County. Detectives responded to the location and initiated a search. Shortly thereafter, approximately 3 p.m., the remains of Jaden Spicer were discovered buried at the scene. The Breathitt County Coroner's Office responded and pronounced the child deceased. The remains will be transported to the medical examiner's office in Frankfort for an autopsy. Jaden's mother, Felicia Gross, 33, of Jackson, was taken into custody and transported to Kentucky River Regional Jail. She is charged with manslaughter in the second degree, abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and falsely reporting an incident.
We'll continue to track developments in that case as it moves towards a trial, but incredibly tragic for little Jaden Spicer. Please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child tonight who needs your help. This is 16-year-old Serenity Helen Tedder. Serenity's been missing since August 7th out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Not Charlotte, but Charlotte, North Carolina, small town, about 3,500. If you see Serenity, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you call the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina. That number's up on your screen. Let's see if we can get Serenity to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.